It's very seldom in life that you get a chance to be able to meet phenomenal human beings that will literally change the trajectory of your life, and you'll be a friend with them forever. Although I'm very fortunate because I collect friends all over the place. And in Sundance a couple of years ago, I would say probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I met a young man. Everybody's clamoring for everybody else. Everybody's, talking about deals. Everyone's talking about, what different advantages that they could get. I was at this convention, and here's this guy that sits down and has a normal conversation with me, doesn't want anything except to just sit down and be friends. We've connected over the years, and it's like one of those friends that you don't have to talk to every single day, but you know that their heart is solid, that they just lift every single person up. And then you have these connection points where there'll be, a time where you get to spend and you get to open up to each other, you get to connect. And that was the last podcast that we got a chance to have. Andrew Chesnutt, my buddy, one of the most elite, and you're going to see this, but not only the most elite in his craft, but also just where his heart is at. And I believe that that's the reason why a person succeeds at the level that they do, is not because of what they do, but because of who they are. And it's an honor and pleasure not only to bring you one of the greatest experts in the world, but also he's my friend. That's first and foremost. And to see him and to be around him is incredible. His connection point to other people. He was just with our friend Damian Horn out there. And even though he lives in Buffalo, and the Buffalo Bills are our nemesis as the Tennessee Titans, we still will love him. So it's my honor and pleasure to bring you Andrew Chesnutt. So why don't we get this party started?
Yeah. And this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights. Yeah, this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights. We begun surfing waves too low, made our own rules everywhere we go. Held tight to the truth that our parents declared. Anything is possible, the love stayed there. Now Rob's daughter ballin' on the end scene, Olay scene. Will's kids live dreams we never could have seen. This the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launchpad flights.
I'm going to bring you in right now, Andrew. So the man, the myth, the legend. How you doing this morning, brother?
I am doing absolutely phenomenally. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing incredible, man. Hey, I want to run down a list real quick because I got to spend some time with. I actually cut you off this morning, not because I wanted to cut you off, but because the things that you were just talking about, I could not allow them to be even said without people getting to experience it. But I wanted to tell you something real quick, if you're cool with that. Here's a list. So I was walking the dogs this morning, and I got to the on the dog walk. I have two dogs, Ziggy and Skylar, and I got to the place where every dog walker or dog owner, it's the biggest fear, which is your dog pooping and not having bags. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have any bags. The dog is doo-dooing in the front, somebody's front lawn. I'm looking around. There's Ring cameras everywhere. I'm going to be a bad person. And I contemplate, should I just go home, act like I didn't see the poop, or do I go backtrack halfway of my walk to go get a dog bag? Well, I do the right thing, I guess you would say, and it took me longer. But it was amazing because during that time, God just said to me about, being a good person. Now, there's a difference between being a good person in the world and being a good person in his eyes. And so he listed these things out, but it was cool because this was listed out in Proverbs 19, but these are all the things that I see in you. And I want you, if you're listening right now, as we have this conversation, as Andrew and I connect today, and you guys get to, eavesdrop on our conversation, you're going to hear all these things in real time. So watch this. Walk in integrity as opposed to running like a fool. Don't be in a hurry. Desire without knowledge doesn't turn out well. Don't blame God for your foolish decisions. Real friends need no advantage. Tell the truth. Above all else, seek wisdom, which is the right use of knowledge. Educate yourself about the blessings that are in your life. Wisdom brings patience. A good name brings advantage. That's you, Andrew. Honor your family, and God will bless you. Be diligent. Laziness never works. Seek, listen, and apply wisdom. Be generous. Invite and celebrate discipline. Stay cool. That's you again. Listen to wisdom and accept discipline, and you will be counted wise. Allow God to work. Just spend time with God. Invite correction. Stay consistent in your time with God, and guard your ears and eyes. This is what the reason why I wanted to read those to you, Andrew, is because when I think of you, when you call, when I see your name on my phone, that's what I think about, man.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You got it.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to, brother?
Oh, all kinds of things. I guess the biggest one is last year I ended up taking probably a huge leap of faith. And I think in our entrepreneurial journey, we have to have this moment when we're ready to just jump all in going, I have no idea what's going to happen, but I'm going to make it go right. And I'm just going to do this, the burn the bridges moment. And so I was having a conversation with a really good friend of mine. He's my candor is my love language friend. So the one that will actually tell me, when I need to hear something, whether or not I like it, he'll reflect this back to me. And he told me, like, he's like, look, because I was struggling with this decision because I'm not used to. I grew up in a world where you don't, fear is a thing where you do the conservative thing, you do the safe thing, you go to school, you go to college, you go off, get a job, do your thing, nice, conservative, well done, everything is laid out. And here I'm looking this massive decision in the face. Every single thing in my head is going off, going, this is not where you need to be. This is wrong. This is scary. I don't want to do this and all of these things. And he turns to me one day and he goes, look, you're an entrepreneur. You're going to figure it out. Jump. Just do it. Because he had done the same thing about 4 years earlier. And so after a little bit of conniving with myself, I decided to do it. And while, the beginning part, there's always a transition, but it was absolutely one of the best decisions I needed to make. It was absolutely where God needed me to be that day. It was where I needed to be to move forward in my life and to be able to make the impact that I wanted to. And I think it's kind of like the dog poop story, because I'm going to probably start calling that the dog poop story now. That's my dog poop story. It's do you succumb to this thing and say, well, I'm going to ignore this part of myself that I know I need to do. I'm going to ignore the dog poop. Or do I do what I need to do to, and that I know is the right decision, whether or not I want to do that right decision. Right. And so I think, it finally took that leap of faith and was one of the best things I've done. Got rid of a whole bunch of things that were holding me back. And so it was really amazing. So decided to jump in and follow that dream. And it's been a great roller coaster ride ever since. Lots of good things learned.
What about the dark? What about the dark and dirty parts of it? Because when you are, I was just talking with. Do you know Michael Ivanov?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I actually saw some of the clips that you guys have.
You would love him too. You need to meet him. He's going to be at a Vibram, and I am ordering you. Like, you were at the very first Vibram, very first, right?
Yep.
And I tell you, the progression of it has been so much fun. But we're going to get him to come. But he was talking about, his book was The Little Problem with Big Dreams. And he was talking about all the things that come in as I don't think that you chase your dreams, because if you chase something, then it runs away, but you accept it. You seem to accept what was purposed for you. Right. And so what was some of the dark and dirty times as you go through? Because we generally hear I went after my dreams. It was the greatest thing that I've ever had happen to me in my life. Although they're not with Andrew alone. They're not with Andrew when he makes the decision and it's like the reality hits of whether it be a financial part, relationship part, any of those things. Were there darker times, or was it just jumping from mountaintop to mountaintop?
Oh yeah, no, not jumping. No, it was not jumping from mountaintop to mountaintop. I saw this poster a while ago, and it really was absolutely perfect. And it showed kind of entrepreneurship as an iceberg. And you had the little tip up at the top, and that had all the good stuff. Freedom of your freedom to make whatever decisions you wanted. the money to be able to do stuff. And then it had this huge thing about 3 times longer of everything that could go wrong and all of the stuff that you had to endure to do it. And for me, it was also overcoming huge amounts of anxiety. I didn't do well with the unknown, and entrepreneurship is all about the unknown. It's all walking into something going, I know this is going to go right. Not sure how it's going to work, but I'm going to make this happen. You have a massive amount of trust in yourself, and that was something that I had huge issues with, was just trusting myself to be able to go out and say, I have no idea what I'm doing right now. I am totally cool with that. I'm going to figure it out. And then just taking small progressive steps forward. I had two different states. It was either the freeze mode, because you have fight, flight, or freeze. It was either freeze or it was go so fast at it that I would burn everything out. So I was finding the middle road there. Those are the dark days. And it was one of those things. I've said this in other kind of speaking engagements I've had, where it's like, entrepreneurship is the greatest, roughest therapy you will ever go through. If you have a dark point in your life, if you have something that you need to challenge, if you have something you're not willing to confront, you're forced to confront it. And so I had all of this stuff, like this just fear-based stuff, this lack-based thinking in my head, an internal critic who was really ravenous, like really bad. And I'm having to now confront all of this while also trying to make money. And it was just, the balance of it was the most difficult part. There were points where, at 2 o'clock in the morning, I am sitting upright in bed, not able to sleep, going, how am I going to make payroll next week? But I did, and it's just kind of getting through that process of understanding you're going to make this work no matter what. I mean, as long as, make progress forward, you're going to make this work. And so I think those were the darkest points, is just getting over that severe anxiety, and it takes over. It's not like, oh, I feel a little anxious. It is a full-on panic attack, heart racing, mind racing, and I think those are the parts that people don't really talk about, but we all have to go through as entrepreneurs, because it makes us the strong person that we need to be able to move forward in a business. Building a business is not easy, as it's a very difficult process to go through. And, but we become very different people because of it. And I think we become much stronger people and much more capable through that. So, yeah.
Well, Andrew, there's 3 words that are kind of buzzes right now and stuff like that, but branding, marketing, and lead generation. And I think a lot of times people will bring them and group them together. They'll be like, oh, I need to build my brand, market, and lead generate. I need to do all those things, but they put them together when they're actually, correct me if I'm wrong, they're all 3 separate things. And if you think they're one thing, you have the tendency to spin your wheels, right? And it doesn't mean that if you brand, it doesn't turn into marketing, that it can't turn into lead generation, but you have, I mean, it's amazing because the focal point that you have and the expertise that you have, you can go, if a person needs to lead generate, you can turn that faucet on. If they need to market, you can turn that faucet on. If they need a brand, you can turn that faucet on. How did you learn about that? And am I correct in that it's 3 different arms, and if you lump it together, you'll get in some challenges?
I think people treat them as 3 distinct things, and there's different strategies for each thing. Lead gen has a slightly different strategy. Branding has a slightly different strategy to it. But I think people say, for example, I need a podcast. Well, good. I'm a huge fan of podcasts. I think they're great for lead gen, but a few things I have to ask about it is why. If you're just going on to talk about cool stories, it's great, cool, you're going to help people, but not really make an impact in your business. Oh, I need a webinar. Great. Okay. How's that going to fit in? Like, what is that going to do for you? People don't look at it from a holistic standpoint. The branding is how you sound. Like, if I tell you polar bears and a red logo, you're going to think about Coca-Cola. Now, polar bears have nothing to do with cola, but that's branding. It's something that's stuck in our head that sticks with people. Authority can be that as well. Lead generation, that's, pulling in new people into your infrastructure and getting them to know, like, and trust you. Okay, well, slightly different strategy, but they all kind of fall into the same thing. Now they know, like, and trust you, and they know who you are. That's where the branding comes in. So they're all very interrelated. And so that's part of what I did, is I noticed that there's coaches out there who are really good at what they do, but there is a hell of a learning curve. When you try to get into marketing, you have to learn ad spend, how to do ad spend correctly. And Meta is a whole nother that's, you can get a PhD in how to do meta ads and how to do them correctly, right? How do I create a video that's going to go, that's going to get me leads? How do I create a webinar that actually works? This podcast I have over here, it's kind of fun, but how do I get that to generate leads for me? And coming in with the entire holistic view of what a coach needs to do and to take it off their plate, because usually that's not what a coach wants to do. It's about as much, it's like me, I don't want to do bookkeeping. I have to do it, but I hate doing it. So I hire a bookkeeper. That's really what I wanted to do, is to bring something so that coaches would be able to step in and just go, I am really good at this one thing. I want to stay in my lane. And I created it because I had the same problem. I've helped build multiple companies at this point, and I was at a point where it's like, we want to do what we're good at. We don't want to have to worry about all of these little things. We may try like one tactic here, one tactic here, one tactic here, no real strategy over the whole thing, and hope that it works. And, as I say in some of my advertising, hope's not a strategy. So that's really the end of it is, yes, they're all interconnected. And that's one of the things I wanted to do, is to bring to coaches to take this marketing mayhem out of their worlds and not have to, have them have to think about that, where they can focus more on that wonderful, awesome thing that they're out there to do so they can go change the world.
Well, it's interesting to me too, because, when I think about you, I think about the integrity part. I think about the friendships that you create. And I was talking about Damien the other day. You had you guys had a Zoom call, you guys connected, and then he happens to be performing.
Yeah. In Buffalo, of all places, like not usually somewhere people go. I love my hometown, don't get me wrong, but he said, I'm coming to Buffalo. And I'm like, why? It's not, there's many other places. Like, you live in Nashville, a really cool city. This is somebody who goes out and plays for Tesla and, all these cool companies. And he was here on a trade show. And that also showed me even more that I needed to go to lunch with him. Like, there was some other plan that was coming together here that I may not have known of. It's one of those situations like we're talking about. You never quite know how God works. You never quite know what you need to do next, but you just sort of accept the path and say, I'm going to make this decision. This seems like the right decision. There's a lot of evidence here that I'm being pointed in a direction, because you don't randomly get onto a Zoom call and find out somebody's in your, backyard in 2 weeks, in a week. That's just not something that generally happens. So it was one of those moments in business where I just had to sit down and think, all right, there's something here. Let's jump on it. Let's make this work.
How do you discern in that realm? Well, my buddy and I were just talking about the discernment muscle. Most of the time, when the feelings muscle is high, the discernment muscle is low, right? So, meaning that sometimes we could get really hyped with emotion, and then we don't make that great of a decision in that moment, right? Because the feelings and the emotions, like, oh my gosh, I feel this way. And there's this little guy saying, I don't think that's the right thing, but there's tons of feeling. And then when the feelings are low, the discernment has a tendency to be high, right? So in this juxtaposed kind of position of marketing, when you're marketing, lead generation, branding, you're saying, okay, I've got this focal point. You said, if I have a webinar, why do I have the webinar? If I have a podcast, why do I have the podcast? And then there's this other side of Andrew that is like, I got a Zoom call. I probably had some other business meetings that I could have taken during lunch, but let me go to hang out with my buddy, my friend, and it doesn't bring you anything immediately as far as business, although most likely in the future it will, but you won't be able to take any credit for it. How do you know when to do which one?
So let me start off with the first question that you had about kind of how do I discern what's going on. And there's this hustle culture where it's go, 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 go. That's not working hard. What it's doing is basically completely redlining your nervous system at all times. And I've fallen into this trap. So I understand what it is, where you're just going because of some sort of trauma in your background. I saw a good friend of mine do this, and it was just, he was trying to prove himself to his dad, who had said something to him when he was like a teenager, going, well, don't go and be this entrepreneur, go to work and do this thing, and, go get a regular job. And he really pushed a lot against that and was constantly going to try to prove himself and prove himself and prove himself when he didn't need to. This was him, this is stuff from his past. Like I said, business is the greatest therapy in the world, and it forces you to look at this stuff. And I think a lot of times it's that compulsion to go out and um, do more. How do I want to put this? It's a compulsion to go out and do more because that's what we think we have to do, when in fact sometimes stepping back and listening to that little voice in the back of your head, like you said, without emotion, getting a quiet moment, listening to that voice in the back of your head and hearing its guidance. And it can't be heard over your brain screaming commands at you or screaming, usually it's anxiety. When I finally learned how to regulate my central nervous system so that I wasn't anxious all the time, because I was constantly in a state of fight or flight. When I finally learned how to do that, it was meditation that helped it. Then I started to hear that voice, and I just started to get these intuitions where I need to go do that. And then I'd follow through, and it would work out really well. And then it would get this little intuition, go to lunch with Damien. And I have no idea what's going to come from it. But I've learned over the years that it allows me to be able to, it's that voice of God, the small voice within. It said in the Bible, be still and know that I am God. And that's part of what this is. Where you hear this in the back of your head going, go do this thing. Little nudge. It's never, you always have free agency. So little nudge in this direction. It was being able to spend the time to listen to that helps. So yes, I'll make decisions based on data. What's in front of me. I will make, financial decisions, look at my projections, have SOPs for things, stuff like that. I also want to hear that little voice behind me. And I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we use that more than we think we do. That kind of, still small voice in the back of our head. I had a friend of mine text me that one day. He's just, it was a random text that I got from him. It just said a video saying that, listen to that still small voice in the back of your head. And it happened just at the time when I needed to hear it. It was just a random text from somebody I've known for years. And it was exactly what I needed to hear. And I think we all need to hear that occasionally. Yeah.
What do you think has brought there's a piece about you that I haven't seen since we've known each other, seriously. And I'm noticing it right now.
Yeah.
I would like you, and if I want you to go back and watch the previous episode that you were on. And I just want, you'll see it. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And it's, what do you think has brought that calming peace? And what I find in this, and I want to congratulate you on it, is when that's there, you no longer are chasing things. They are just coming to you. And I'm not saying that Andrew's on easy street and all his business, he doesn't do anything at all and everything just comes. But I just want to compliment you because I see it, man. And I see that attraction part of it, but what do you think contributes to that piece? And do you feel it?
Oh, absolutely. I feel it. And the podcast we did was about 4 years ago. About 6 years ago, I started this massive, started in business about 8 years ago, did my first jump of, I have no idea how this is going to work, but I'm in a situation right now where this is going to work out. Came on with an entrepreneur. He kind of became a really close friend and mentor and helped me through the process of, learning how to entrepreneur because I had nobody around me to do that. But I also had a huge amount of just sheer anxiety, and I tried to control everything. And it was not working at all. And so went through a bunch of different stages over the past 6 years or so to do this. You got me about 2 years into it in the last podcast. What finally clicked was I don't have to control everything. And if I try to control everything, that is a fear-based response that drowns out the voice inside my head that's giving me good guidance. You cannot make a good decision. It's physically impossible to make a good decision from a fear-based mindset. You can't do it. So now what do I need to do to turn that off? And I had a conversation with another friend of mine, and he said, look, you have trouble trusting yourself. Like you don't trust you can do this. You just keep thinking you're going to keep in this spiral over and over and over and over again due to family drama or whatever happens, whatever's going in your head, whatever it is. Step back for a second. And what would happen if it actually worked? And there's a few times when I call it being hit upside the head by the 2x4 of reality. You just get slapped by something that somebody says because it's so simple, but so profound. And I started trying it. Okay, let me see what happens if I trust this to work. And then it worked. What would happen if I was able to listen to that voice? Now it's worked. And it gets so much easier when you just sort of surrender to the process, understanding that there's a direction you're going in. And
Hmm.
you just kind of let the curves, it's like kind of like GPS, but you just say, oh, I have to go in that direction over there. So I think I'll make a right here. I'll make a left there. You get to your end goal, but it's not, you're kind of just enjoying the scenery along the way. And it makes it so much easier. And you're trusting in yourself to be able to make the proper decisions as you go along that. And I think that was the biggest thing that I ever learned how to do, was just to trust myself. And it was a very, very hard lesson. It took years for me to get to that point. But once I started to see the evidence, now that fear goes down again. And now I'm able to actually, okay, well, hey, I'm going to go to lunch with Damien. There's a reason for it. No idea what that is, but hey, let's go do this. I haven't seen him in a couple of years, and hey, let's, go connect. I did this as well with another friend of mine yesterday. So, yeah, let's go to lunch. Let's do it. I've known him since middle school. He's been an entrepreneur for years, but it's like, yeah, let's go do this. And what it is it's sometimes about business, but it's also sometimes about connecting with the people around you who will help you elevate. Like, guys need that tribe. It's something that we need. It's our thing. We need guys who will push us to be better. We need guys who are going to challenge us when they need to, and we need to have somebody to set a standard also outside of us to be able to say, okay, well, it's not. How do I put this accurately? It's not the. It's not keeping up with the Joneses. It's I do better. This person's doing really well. Cool. What are they doing? Let's see if I can do something with them. And now you elevate yourself, and you just kind of keep elevating each other as a sport. It's a little competitive, but not. I want to win. It's more. Let's just see how high we can go. Let's see who can get. Let's see if we can hit that high score. It's hard to explain, but yeah, yeah.
Who's
But
the
yeah, lots of work.
who's
Yeah.
the unconventional person that's inspiring you right now? And I'll give you an example. Is um, my family and I, my wife and I, we went and saw Marty Supreme. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. No.
You got to see Marty Supreme. I mean, Timothy Chalamet, I think, is going to be, he's that actor where, like, of this generation, that young kid that we're going to be talking about him. This is going to be a strong stretch. We're going to be
Mhm.
our kids are going to be talking about him the way that we talk about De Niro and Al Pacino and things like that. Like, this kid is unbelievable. And in Marty Supreme, you got to watch the movie. Um, he makes you love him, although he's doing things that you're like, oh my, I just want to strangle you, kid. But he has such a charm about him. And I was watching it and I was so inspired. I was like, I want to have that type of charm, because it was like, no matter what he did, he could, this dude in the movie, I'm not going to give it away, but this dude could literally, like, steal your lady, steal your TV in front of you. And you would be like, oh my gosh, I'm just a better person for watching him steal my TV from him right in front of me. It was, I mean, so it was unconventional. So right now I'm fired up about Marty Supreme. Like, I just watching him. And then again, the actor Timothy Chalamet and how he's able to connect on on screen and stuff. What's like an unconventional, person that's pushing you right now?
It's hard to tie it down to one because I've had a lot of different like bits and pieces that come
Yeah.
together. I take a little bit from each person. I just got done reading The Surrender Experiment. And if you read that book, it will change your life. It's one of the books that have just really changed my mindset. Not somebody, I would never think that I would be getting advice from somebody that lived in a hippie commune in Florida. This was just not the standard archetype for me. I'm more of like, the Grant Cardone, Sean Whalen side of things. Like, that's not the person I thought I would. But it was such a profound impact to be able to see somebody who you would normally think of as, the dirty hippie living in the forest, to he grew a multi-billion-dollar company and did it this way. And it was a different mindset. So I'd say he's the current one right now. Michael Singer is the name of the author. It's called The Surrender Experiment. It was done about 10 years ago. He wrote the book, but it goes through how he built one of the largest medical software companies in the nation that was eventually sold to WebMD, and everything he went through with that. So I'd say he was probably the most unconventional person right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the most recent. Yep.
So I have a friend named Gary. I call him Coach, and I won't. Well, I guess I could tell you his last name, but I just call him Coach and Gary. And I want you to meet him. The guy is phenomenal. I mean, when you talk about the stages that you went through to be able to get to the peace part and understanding that there was the anxiety happening and it was triggering you and things like that, this guy is one of the baddest coaches on the planet in that realm.
Mhm.
Gary has been working on his webinar for as long as I've known him, 5 years, I mean, even longer. My son, I think he started coaching my son when he was like, maybe 6. So probably 8 years, 8, 9 years. And Gary is honestly, he's the best. Like when you spend time with him, this guy, the results he gets, everything like that, he's struggled a little bit with number one, getting it done because he wants it to be absolutely perfect before he touches anything. And then he's been having a tough time. He's like, and he was asking me about it, like, how do I get this to people? And we've talked, and he was always asking me about, or we're talking about, whether it be friendships. I mean, say my friendship with you, to have access to an expert like you and to be able to have the type of conversations that I have doesn't come from just a business interaction. It happens from, I mean, literally you and I have been friends over 5 years, right? Or right around 5 years that when we first met in Park City, at Sundance. And so talking to Gary, because this is who you deal with a lot. You deal with coaches who are phenomenal, although sometimes they're struggling to either find their audience or the audience is already, made. And the audience is like, hey, will you just tell me you're available? You know what I'm saying? What is like, maybe speaking directly to Gary, because again, there's so many people that Gary represents.
There's a few things that go on here. And I sort of chuckled when you said, it's taken him 5 years to do his webinar. And I do that in a good hearted way because this is common. Like I see this all the time. Hey, I'm going to get this podcast done. When? Well, it's been 2 years, but.
Hey, don't you find that happens with books too, Andrew? Like every time that, I remember when I came out with my first one and I wrote the book in 6 days. I don't know if I ever told you that, but I literally sat down and I pecked it out with 2 fingers in 6 days. And I just didn't stop because I was like, when Oprah interviews me and she asks about the book, I'm going to be like, oh, Oprah, I wrote it in 6 days. And then she's going to be like, oh my gosh, I need to call Stedman. And then she's going to call in Gail and we're all going to sit around and kumbaya. And people are like, oh, Oprah, you're going to be on Oprah? And I'm like, well, not yet. And they keep asking like, how are you going to get a hold of her? And I'm like, she's going to call, but she's been busy. For the past, I think 5-6 years, she's just been busy with all her stuff. I mean, I want to give her grace,
It's Oprah, exactly, yeah.
But when I wrote the book, it was funny because when it came out, you're kind of excited about it. And every person, before they even said congratulations, they were like, I'm writing a book. And then I was like, oh, really? Like, what are you writing it on? They're like, oh, I haven't written anything down, but I got this idea. I'm like, that's not a book. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So is it the same way? Is it the same way with the podcast, with the webinar, with all those things?
I think part of it is a wee bit of fear. Like we don't want to put ourselves out there. That's a little bit of it. Most of what I see is, especially with really high performing entrepreneurs, we tend to be perfectionists. We are very, very passionate about what we're doing. And we're chief everything officer. Like we're doing everything in our business. And I coined that term because I was a chief everything officer for a while and had to do all of these different things and trying to execute way outside of my zone of genius. Most people are really able to, they know in their head what they're really good at and they know how, they know their vision. Trying to explain it is incredibly difficult because they're experts. I had a conversation with Chris, the mentor we helped found some companies with. And he was frustrated one day, and he runs hot anyway. So it's just kind of, he was ranting around the office just going, I don't know why people are getting this. Why aren't they getting this? It's so easy. Now we're trying to explain a really complicated life insurance product. So it's not really as easy as he thought it was. And I had to kind of let him burn off a little bit and then told him, look, this is what's going on. You can jump from point A to point F in a single bound. Everyone else needs B, C, D, and E. And perfect example, teach your kids how to tie their shoes. And you will absolutely see this in action. It's hard for us. Our brains are wired to be able to just jump from one point to another for something that's really easy for us. But what we have to do is step back and say, oh, this is, here's the gaps that mere mortals have to understand in order to make this work. And people won't buy from people they don't know, like, and trust. And getting over that gap is difficult because people know there's something in there that they have to put in the webinar to get people to understand their product, but they miss it. Then they try it. It doesn't work. They get, then go into a scarcity mindset. Oh, this isn't going to work. I have to make this perfect. And the cycle continues. Same thing with podcasts. Hey, I want to get on a podcast and talk about something. Well, what guests do I need? What do I do? Solo podcasts? Do I do non-solo podcasts? Now I have to learn a whole new skill set. Now, 2 years later, it's still in waiting. And that's what ends up happening. We're overwhelmed with information way outside of our zone of genius and trying to execute on something while that anxiety is getting in. And it creates this perfect storm of nothing happening at all. And that's what I wanted to stop with this, is to be able to say, cool, we'll just install this for you. We'll give you the guidance. You go do that really cool thing that you do in your zone of genius.
Yeah.
And I wanted that for people. I wanted them to not have to worry about it, because I have worried about it. It's been a problem. This is how I started this. It was a problem that I had, that I said, this doesn't work. Went to a bunch of marketers. First marketing experience I had, spent $15,000 and didn't get anything from it because I was using a tactic. I wasn't using a strategy. This was that new shiny thing. It was Google. It was Google's SEO, or it was Google search. Organic. No, wasn't even in the direction I needed to go in at the time. So I needed to come up with something where I was able to solve a problem for clients to be able to say, okay, cool, let's just install this thing in here. This is how it works. This is where you have to show up. Go say these things. We'll take care of the back end for you to take you out of that suck zone and put you back into the zone of genius and stop making you the chief everything officer.
I want to go to the part where you said, you spent $15,000 on the marketing and you didn't really get anything from it. Do you think that was just choosing the wrong person to do it, the wrong method, or was that just a person who was going after your money?
It was actually a reputable firm, and what it was is it was completely the wrong strategy, and I didn't know how to differentiate. This is my first foray into marketing, and I had no idea how to make it work. And I was in the learning industry for 15 years at that point. I knew learning really, really well. I knew how to, tell people what I was doing really well, but I didn't really have any idea what I was doing. I think they were operating in good faith. I don't think this was them just trying to take my money, but it was not the right thing for me at all. And I couldn't express it. I couldn't tell them, no, this is wrong, or no, that's not the right strategy for me. We need to go in this direction, because I didn't know what I didn't know. Because again,
how does a person, say like Coach Gary, and when I say coach, the reason why I call him coach, because he's my son's football coach, and so I call him Belichick. You know what I'm saying? But say like Coach Gary, how do you know what you need? Most of the time, people are good in their sphere of genius, like you talked about earlier. But when they go into it, they're like, okay, well, I know, if I put Gary with anybody, if you spend time with Gary, you're going to be better. I mean, the guy's story is unreal. And we kind of, he's been working on a book too, been working on it for a while. Gary, you need to get it done. But he was on a cliff in Hawaii, and he goes to jump, because they're jumping off the rocks into the water. Well, when he goes, he didn't check his footing first. And so he slipped. And when he slipped, he started into a free fall. And as he's in the free fall, he had the wherewithal in his brain, because he had done so many times as far as, jumping off things, whatever it was, that he relaxed his body and then was able to stay relaxed and roll as soon as he hit. And that saved his life. So when he did that, but he had a ton of, he had a back injury to it. He went through all the stuff, but that's the basis of his book and of his training. You've got to check the footing before you step. If you step onto something after checking the footing and you still slip, make sure that you have a strong enough foundation that when you're in that free fall, that you can go back to that muscle memory. And then not only the muscle memory of knowing to relax your body, but also have done it so many times that you know how to be able to roll once you hit, because there's going to be impact. And you see his whole story is wrapped around that. And every single one of us has had bad footing, has gone into a free fall, and most of us tighten up and then hurt ourselves when we create the impact. So he's phenomenal in that realm. How does he know where to market or what strategy to go to or how to do it? Like, or does he need to know that?
He does. And we think about this as more of like a traditional, we call it your ideal client profile, or kind of, here's the audience you want to help. But I have there's a lot of different terms around it. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. As entrepreneurs, we're really good at solving a problem. So the first thing to think about is, first, who am I helping and how am I helping them? And that helps you to identify that ideal client first. Just so don't think about what you're trying to sell. Don't think about, I have these 6 features. Think about more, what is going to resonate with that person, and how can you fill some sort of a gap? How can you solve that problem for them? So it's sort of, I use a story arc when I'm doing presentations and when I'm doing webinars, because it's if you think about the story arc, it's a hero's journey. Hero has this problem at first. They're struggling with it. You kind of live the struggle with them for a little bit. Then they find this hero, this thing that helps them to do it. And then they can go from there. That thing helps them, and now everything is fine at the end of it. Using that as a sales technique is a really powerful way to kind of make our brains light up. We love stories. It's how our brains are wired. We love that emotion side of things. But, trying to find who you're going to help. The second part of this too, a friend of mine, Deb Gabber, wrote a book called Irrational Loyalty. She also wrote one called Branding is Sex. So she's interesting. She's an amazing human who has built these massive, massive brands. And she said, don't sell features. Everyone else is going to have them. Mm-hmm. Who are you? How is your client going to resonate? What problem are you solving? And how do you solve it for them? Answer those questions, and you'll not only find your ideal clients, it'll become kind of, you'll see it in your head, like who these ideal clients are, but those clients will also resonate with you, and people buy from people they know, like, and trust.
How do you
so that's
that? Well, and Andrew, you've talked about the know, like, and trust part. And this is, for people who know you, they like you, they trust you. And this happened for me in a bar at Sundance. Like, that's when you and I met. You know what I'm saying? What was it called? What was the place called?
The Owl. It's at Sundance Resort. Yep.
And that part happened right away. And it's like your chuckle, your laugh. Those kind of things is incredible. You were magnetic when we did the first Hideout retreat there.
I have a picture from that actually on one of my screens. The picture of us when we climbed up to I think that's one of the screens on my thing. Yep.
That was that when we hiked up to the PC, right?
Yeah. Yep. In PC I forget what waterfall that was. But yep.
Oh yeah. Did you go in the waterfall?
No, I didn't.
You remember, what was the guy's name? He was from the East Coast.
Bill.
But what? It was Bill.
I think. Yeah.
Was it Bill? Because Bill went in and he had hiked the whole way in his jeans, and then he went in that like fully clothed jeans on, straight East Coast.
Yep.
That was.
I remember that moment because he jumped. He just did it. This was not something he was expecting. It was just sort of like. I think it was the first time he was around a tribe of guys where he felt comfortable enough to just kind of jump into this thing and go, I'm doing this thing. And you could see the look in his eye when things shifted, where it was like, well, no, that's kind of weird. No, that's kind of, I'm in jeans. I'm not in oh, screw it. I'm doing this. I just saw this shift.
Now, do you find, like, because you and I have been to conventions, we've been to group things, we've been to anywhere from, you've done money multiplier things to Secret Knocks to the Hideout to the Vibe Room, things like that. As far as Andrew, do you like it when it's as structured as possible, or do you like when it has a little bit of room to be able to, flow?
I love it when it has room to flow. Like, that's part of the letting things happen how they happen. A little structure is fine. I think we all need a little bit of it, but I think there's the masterminds where it's just go and sit and listen to a bunch of people. They have their place. They're really good for people when you first start off because you need to hear that. There's this liminal space when you first start off in business where you don't have anyone around you. You figured out you're the black sheep of the family. You have no idea how to do this thing that you want to do, but you know it's in the back of your head, that little spark that happens. Problem is you don't have anyone around you who can show you how to do this, and what you're trying to do is so far outside of their experience levels, like so far outside of it. It's like they're all speaking Japanese. They have no idea what this is. They can't visualize what you're trying to do, and oftentimes, even with the best of intentions, they're going to try to help you, and it ends up really hurting you in the long run. It's that you hear that, start to hear that fear mentality break in. But you don't have this tribe of entrepreneurs around you who can go, nope, you're not weird. Nope, that's normal. Who could show you a higher standard? And so you kind of get this weird liminal space between it. And I think some of the stand up and talk, hearing people like, I went to an Aspire tour late last year, and, Goggins was one of the people that spoke. You had, Drew Cordell and all of these folks up there. Dan Fleischman was on there. You heard all these people speaking and who are amazing entrepreneurs. And I think you need to hear that to some extent. But then there comes a point when you have that tribe, you now know what you're doing, you're more experienced in it. And I think that's the point where I'm at, where it's like, no, I want to go talk and see what kind of cool stuff I can do with my friends. Because I still have that hoodie, by the way, the one that says I do cool stuff with my friends. Yeah.
Oh man,
you don't know what I'm talking about, man.
Dude, that was one of my favorites, man. It was just a really, it was an amazing time. Phenomenal. It was such a blessing that place up in Park City.
Yeah.
It has been such a blessing. It actually healed my daughter, man. Like my daughter went through a really tough time during the pandemic. She was like a lot of kids did. She was fifth grade, and I think fifth grade to seventh grade was that pandemic time for her. And we ended up buying that house right around that time. And her room had the view, that beautiful view. And we didn't have blinds at the time. So she would have to wake up to the sunshine every day. And it brought my daughter back to life. So
nice.
It was
in the same
really
next door to you. When we were at the hideout, I stayed in the unit next to yours, but I stayed in that same room, and looking out over Lake Jordanelle was just one of the most beautiful. Yeah, that was the moment when I realized I'm moving to this place. I mean, that's kind of what that was just, this is happening.
Are you in Utah now? You're not in Utah.
No, I'm still in Buffalo. Buffalo.
Will you move to Utah? Will you go?
Yeah, it's going to be this year.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I want to go back to Coach Gary. Okay. So walk us down, because this is an avatar, right? So Coach Gary's an avatar of yours. Walk Coach Gary down. Coach Gary is he's a coach that literally, like, I would say, I haven't talked to him about his avatar, but I would say based off of his workings, 35 to 55, person who is triggered, who it ends up affecting their family, then their business, and then their finances. And he heals those things. He heals them. He's not like a televangelist, but he helps people through that part. He's at the point where he's working on his webinar. I talked to him last night. He's like, dude, yesterday, I worked for 9 hours just sitting in front of my computer. And he was exhausted. He wasn't I just wanted to take him away from that, because I just want him to do what he does. Okay, so he walks in. He gets to sit with Andrew. What's the first step that Coach Gary does at this point where he's at?
First thing we're going to try to do is get an emotional hook with people. So I always start off with some sort of a hook that just disrupts their thought pattern. People go into a webinar, the first thing they think is, you're going to try to sell me something, and they're in that mode already. But if I try to sit back and tell somebody, you don't have a lead problem, you've got a communication problem, or some other hook that kind of gets them to think about that, going, wait, okay, well, I don't have a lead problem. I'm in a lead generation webinar, but why am I here? Now you start to get them to think. You disrupted that pattern. Second thing to do is to talk about what specific pain points can you hit emotionally. So think about this from an emotional standpoint. Again, you're not trying to sell, these are the problems you have, and here's the reasons I fix them. It's, let me take you to that place. Are you a father who isn't able to lead your family? Are you a father who blows up all the time? I'm just going to use guys just because that's kind of where we come from. But are you a father who, if you looked at your checkbook, you don't know, you're not sure where the next pay is going to come from? Or are you the type of person who, if there's checks in the checkbook, there's still still money in the account? Try to get some of these questions about. Let's start getting them. You want them to be able to say, oh yeah, that's me. I can remember because I'm the story guy, and I don't tell this story very often. So this is a the Vibe Room exclusive here. I can remember I was probably about 6 or 7, and I saw this commercial on TV at one point, and it said, "Hey, are you a gum chewer?" And I'm like, "I am," because I liked gum. And my parents had to explain to me, like they say that to everyone, because I felt all special in that moment. But you want that moment to happen in the beginning of your webinar. Hey, yeah, I'm that person. Now you understand. Now bring them to that place where they can say, I identified all of the problems, and now here's what we can do. Here's the story that I have, because he probably has a story behind why he's doing what he's doing. Just tell that story. Now you're connecting with people after you're done. So you've triggered what's going on, made them identify with you. Now you're telling them how they do it. So for me, I tell the $15,000 story about marketing and getting 0 leads from it. And I tried all of these different things, and I'm hitting every pain point that they have. 9 hours in front of a computer monitor trying to write a webinar, not getting anywhere from it, totally burning out. I call it managing marketing mayhem. And to get that term, that term helps pull people into, oh, wow, well, yeah, I am managing marketing mayhem right now. So once I've done that, now we go through, okay, here's how to do it. Here's how to fix that problem. So I teach a little bit about it, and then we go into how, some of here's what we have, and a little bit more detail about the actual products themselves. But for him, I would say that, first of all, emotionally connect. What are the questions that could trigger the things inside of these people they want, that makes them a little bit uncomfortable, that now pushes them into that world of they want to change? And then tell your story about how you can change that and how you came up with it. And those would be the best kind of guidance that I could give to him to help him to ask the right questions and to not go in the standard webinar format, to go into something a little bit more personal. There's probably a ton of coaches out there that do something similar to what he does. I don't want to connect with all of them. I want to connect with him, with Coach here. I want to connect directly with him because he resonates with me.
Yeah. What about too, like once that process happens, and then this is where I've found, and it doesn't matter what business it is, a lot of times then businesses, when they gain that part of it, and then I don't subscribe to this, although you might educate me on this. This is the reason why I hang out with geniuses like yourself. People say like, oh, if you're not seen and you're not everywhere, then even if you have the greatest product, it doesn't matter if it just sits on the shelf or in the dark. I subscribe to that part of it, but there is this part that now marketing is one of those things where most people go out and market before they actually are good at the thing. Yeah. And then there's the other side. Like, did you see, probably one of my favorite documentaries is Euro Dreams of Sushi. Have you seen that?
No, but I have to see that now. Oh my
gosh, you have to watch it today. Watch it today because it really talked about, like, there's this guy, he's a sushi master, and he just dedicated his life to being the best at his craft, the best that he possibly could. Well, he is now one of the most sought after sushi chefs in the world, but his sushi restaurant, the one that they had the documentary on, is in a train station in Japan. Mm-hmm. And when you go to it, if you can go, which it's at the time, it was over a year to be able to get a reservation. If you go, you don't order, you sit down and he serves you what he sees fit.
I love that.
And the whole message of the story was that the world finds masters. Yeah. And although people who haven't mastered their craft try and find the world, it's a tough one because I'm like, can you have both? Can you be a master and then go market? Or when I look at it, say like the 4 seasons, we know when I say the 4 seasons, you went, like you knew what I was talking about. Yeah. Zero marketing, zero marketing.
Mhm.
Their marketing is the people who have experienced it. They create their own sales pitch. But
Yeah.
when I say that, like, is there a mix? Is it one or the other? How do you feel in these scenarios?
So it's a breakdown. The Four Seasons has also been around for decades at this point, probably a good portion of a century, and so that's the slow and steady authority rate. Like that's what you want to get to is eventually you're such an authority that if I know I go into Four Seasons, I am expecting a certain amount of service, I am expecting a certain room quality, it's usually high above everything else, and there's this expectation for it. So that's the authority end of it. Building that is the slow burn. It's necessary, but there's also using it in combination with the fast burn, what you're talking about when it's like, let me just go post 100 times a day and every single little thing and just go buy my stuff and that's it. Um, I have a marketing guy on my team. I'm very good. He's much better than me, so I hired him. So he helps me out with some of the strategy in the background. And he looked at my marketing one day. This was before I was really good at it, and he said, "You're doing what I call omnipresent art marketing. You're just putting things all over the place, and nothing's hitting." And I realized that wasn't a good strategy. So again, I can tell people as far as clients, I've been through this. I've made all the mistakes here. Let me show you how not to. But we're down to 3 posts a week, maybe 4. It was strategic. So what we're doing, instead of just kind of shotgunning across everything, we're going to very specific people, hitting very specific pain points, going, here's the person you need to talk to. Here's how I can solve your problem. It's basically a mini version of what we do on the webinar. Here's the pain point. Here's how we solve it. Come learn some more from us. And if you do it strategically, you don't end up, like you said, just kind of blasting things all over everywhere. You do it in a very controlled, strategic manner. You get a lot more bang for your buck. It's quality versus quantity is what it ends up as. So there's, again, 2 different sides. There's the branding side of things, the Four Seasons side of things, where you build this huge authority and you're the go-to person. It's like I would say Tony Robbins. Okay, we all know who that is. You build that on the other end of it, but in the meantime, you still need to build a company. So you use this kind of shorter term strategies to be able to go out and get your first customers in. And you're also saying about not, just going out and trying to build something without being an expert, and that is the fastest way to fail. I'm a big fan of minimum viable product. I had a friend of mine who's been building companies for like 30 some odd years at this point, and I got into a call with him. I'm like, I have this new product and I want to try it out with you and just hear what you have to say. And he's like, look, bro, you don't need my permission. Go out, fly it up the flagpole, and see if the market accepts it. So what he's trying to say is that just kind of try to come up with something like a minimum viable product. So the thing that you think based on what the problems that you're trying to identify, or the problem that you're trying to fix, build something around it and test it. Don't sit for like 9 hours with a webinar or trying to figure out what you're going to say on the podcast. Try it out first based on these strategies and just build that company first. And then build longer term. So there's 2 different sides to it. So hopefully that made some sense on it. But yeah,
Absolutely.
There's 2 different.
Well, it was interesting too, because like I'll read different scenarios. So here's one that I experienced myself. So as a young hairdresser, I had a guest. She was a beautiful woman. She went to University of Memphis, and I just asked her a bunch of questions. She said she was the 9-time national or her Palm Squad was the 9-time national champions. They were going for the 10th straight year, right? So then I was 19 at the time, so I was like, oh, okay, well, where do you practice? And she was like, well, we practice at the field house because my brother went to University of Memphis, so I knew where it was. I said, what time do you practice? 12 o'clock. Cool. My work was 30 minutes from the campus. So I said, what days do you practice? Monday through Friday. Cool. I logged it in. The next week on the Tuesday, because I didn't want to go Monday because, Tuesdays, they're already kind of in practice mode. But I left the salon at 12, bought a bunch of shirts from the salon. I had asked her how many girls are on the Palm Squad. Well, then I bought that amount of shirts. I left at 12 because it took me half an hour. I got to the field house. I didn't go in the front door. I went in the back door. Because I knew if I went in the back door, then I would interrupt practice. And if I went in the front door, they would stop me before I ever got into it. So I went in the back door, and as I interrupted practice, they said, excuse me, who are you? And I said, well, thank you so much for asking. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I wanted to first compliment you on the 9-time national champion and that you're going for your 10th straight year. And then they diffused a little bit and they were like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then they asked, what are you doing here? I said, well, thank you so much for asking. I just want to let you know in, in celebration of you guys going for your 10th straight year, I'm going to take care of all of your hair complimentary on Thursday. All you have to do is make the appointment. Here's my card. Here's some shirts for you. Thank you so much. Sorry for interrupting practice. Have a great day. So I drove back to the salon. On my way back to the salon, I didn't have a cell phone because we didn't have them at the time, and they were like only on Miami Vice. I get back to the salon. One of my clients, I only had 4 at the time. One of them was worked for the news station. So I called her and I said, hey, I just want to let you know that the 9-time national champions going for their 10th straight year will all be here on Thursday. It's a great story for you to be able to cover. So they all scheduled. I did the appointments, took no money. The news station came in, and that literally became my marketing piece. Like, they went out and marketed. So all the hottest chicks at University of Memphis came, sat in my chair, and then they went out to the University of Memphis, and now it spread. The reason why I tell you that is because there was a story with Wolf Hengst, and he was one of the youngest general managers for the Four Seasons. Well, there was a lady named Anne Chenault who had asked him to if he could facilitate a friend and a person that she was working with to stay at the hotel. And he made accommodations for her, not knowing. He was just doing the right thing because Isadora Sharp had told him, you have an unlimited budget to make people happy. He did it. Well, Anne Chenault, the friend that she was bringing in, happened to be Ronald Reagan. And then all the diplomats from other countries ended up coming to the Four Seasons. And that really became one of the biggest marketing pieces for the Four Seasons. Mm-hmm. Andrew, how do you create, because you hear stories of this, right? And I lived one of them. Mm-hmm. How do you stay creative in a realm where, say marketing or lead generation is, if you do this and you do this and you do this, then you get that. And then say, for instance, with you, when you started your business, you jump and you don't know what's going to happen. You figured out the how as you go. But how do you mix the two of those things, if that makes sense?
Yeah, actually, I want to go back to kind of what you did, because first of all, I think it's brilliant, by the way. That was awesome. That was really well executed. But what you did was what I call authority by proximity. So you got somebody else here with a lot of authority, the 9-time, almost 10-time champions. You got them to show up in your salon, and you got a local news anchor to do that, to witness it. So now you've created authority for your salon, and you've accelerated that process of now becoming the Four Seasons, right? To kind of mix a whole bunch of metaphors here. Mm-hmm. For me, the moment that I thought of with doing that was podcasts, authority by proximity. I get around a bunch of people who are a whole lot smarter than I am about different things. I ask them a whole bunch of questions. I now look smarter. I look like I have more authority, and the audience is able to witness it. And so so that made a whole lot of sense with what you're doing. And I think a lot of people think about doing this and they think, oh, well, I'm going to go out and, kind of just, try to find these opportunities. We're entrepreneurs. We're always going to try to do that. But there's another way to do that with podcasts. And I think people miss that part. So I wanted to speak to that directly as, again, authority by proximity. Take somebody else's authority, be able to get it. I've had a bunch of really awesome people with amazing authority on my podcast. And we had, it was the great way. I get to chat with a whole bunch of cool people and get to ask questions. There's a little bit of a selfish thing in it too. I like to ask questions like, "Hey, I want to learn more about this." I want to ask. You're at the top of your game. What's a little? What do you think about this, right? But it allows them to it also allows that authority by proximity. And so I think that's what you did. You pulled it off perfectly too, man. That was the greatest way to do it. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. And it wasn't like I didn't have a marketing strategy. I was 19 years old. And honestly, I thought, if I get to work on, because the girl, and she's still a friend of mine, her name is Michelle Temengawa. I want you to meet her at some point. She's on the East Coast. She's actually in New York City. She works, the craziest thing, right? My daughter's into performance arts, things like that now. This is how God works, and the Damien thing, right? So the Damien thing with you. Michelle Temengawa was that woman that I was talking about. I was 19 years old. We're still friends today, and I'm 50 years old. She lives in New York, and you know what she does? She works on Broadway and produces Broadway shows.
Nice.
So now my daughter has the access to a
Yeah.
young lady that
Mhm.
literally, like, very few people, like I was saying with you. I mean, I have access to you because you're my friend, right?
Mhm.
And I think that that part is a wild thing. When did you learn the friendship part of it, and when it was the most that was most important? Because I sat down yesterday, um, and yesterday was all about being a good friend. That was the word. Like, the whole word was how to be a good friend, and we kind of worked through those things. Where did you learn that part? Because honestly, Andrew, you're such a great friend to so many people.
It wasn't always that way. Just, vulnerability moment here. When I was younger, I never really didn't really have a whole lot of friends around me. And it was more because I was in this mindset of, it was more about what I wanted right away. And it wasn't necessarily self centered. It was more about, this was what was on my mind, and I just came off really wrong. just, just kind of that really blunt ADHD kind of world that we think in. Once I learned that things are a whole lot more fun to do with people,
Uh-huh.
that started to get me to learn that, let's go do cool stuff with my friends. Let's make this into something that isn't transactional. Let's make this into something that is more relationship based. And once I started to see that, and once I started to implement it, it made things so much more fun, so much more fruitful, with like significantly less stress, significantly less energy that I have to dump into something. It takes a lot of energy to think about yourself. If you're thinking about other people and you're working with other people, now you've divided that energy, the energy usage amongst multiple people, if that makes some sense. So that once I got to that point where I realized, and it took some trial and error, but once I got to that point where I realized, this is a whole lot more fun with a group of people. I'm going to go out, we're going to do a thing. Think about a band. It's a whole lot easier than playing single or solo. It's easier to do with a band. You got a whole bunch of people, you're all vibing, you're going in the same direction, everyone's kind of playing off each other, each one has their own strength. Let's kind of play off it. So once I learned that, that helped exponentially. Yep. Yeah.
How did you get yourself out of it? Because there is the part, and especially in your business, right? And so in your business, working with coaches, whether it be crafting their message, helping them with the marketing, creating the lead generation, all those things. Like, there's no one better at that than you. But when I say this, that almost attracts a hustle culture, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are like, yeah, Andrew, that's cool. Yeah, I'll be around you, but I just need you to get me boom, 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 boom. Right. And I
Yeah.
need you to get that part. Now, in business, understandable. They come to you for a product, they do that stuff. But what I notice about you is that you actually have relationships with the people that you work with. Like, if you're working with a
Mm-hmm.
coach, it's not that they're, give me my money and then I'm going to give you the result and then you're on. No, people fall in love with Andrew. And then it just makes those things kind of grow. How does that, how does a person, because you could see if you start gaining results from, like, you do this thing, you gain the results. Sometimes you get so focused on just doing this thing, as opposed to the reason why when you did this thing that it got these results is because you were actually connected to the person. Does that?
Yeah. And it's boring doing it alone. It's really dull. I mean, being transactional, it feels kind of sleazy. There's some things that should be transactional. I'm not going to go and develop a huge relationship with the cashier at the gas station that I go to. Probably not going to be a relationship based experience. But if I am helping somebody to come into their business and help them to grow their business, I want a relationship there. I want to be kind of part of helping them build this cool thing. Entrepreneurs, I only work with entrepreneurs, and I do it intentionally. They have this passion for what they do, and they have this one thing, and no matter what, they're going to make it go right. And it's this wonderful intensity behind that. It's so much fun to deal with. And so that I only work with entrepreneurs for that reason, to just hear that. But being a part of that process and having been a part of that process with multiple companies at this point, that growth product, the growth process, bringing them in, I'd rather be somebody who's on the team going, yeah, let's all build this cool stuff together. Let's make it work. And in marketing, a lot of times, there's folks out there who are saying, hey, I'll build your webinar and you don't have to pay if it doesn't do this and that. Yes, metrics are good. We need them. We need to have something to be able to measure against, to be able to say we need to, change our strategy here because this isn't working out right. And using that as data, and using that data to be able to make informed decisions. But a lot of times people are thinking, well, I don't want to do it, so I'm going to outsource the whole thing and not even think about it. They're not thinking from a long-term standpoint. They're thinking from transactional short-term. And, yeah, it's a huge buzzword right now. People like lead gen, people like these other things. They don't understand what it's like to actually work with a partner and a consultant versus somebody that's just going to do one thing for you and that's the end of it. I rather work with somebody to help build it, and kind of in a way like a co-founder. Like let's go in, let's do a strategy. I always give, if somebody's a client of mine, they get access to me and my team and Slack, or we have at least once a month we sit down and chat about what's going on. What's working in your company, what isn't, how are we going to make this work? And sometimes it also leads into, hey, I've been in this industry before. I know this, this, why don't you try this, this direction as well. So I just like building those relationships a lot better. I mean, it's just so much more fun and so much more satisfying. So, yeah.
What's one of the most unconventional relationships that at the time, yeah, I mean, when I say this, I'm filled with them. I'm talking to one right now. I met you in the Owl Bar. Honestly, for me, I didn't know what you did. And when I say I didn't care. It's not from an insensitivity part. It's more from a standpoint of like, there's this guy, he's got an incredible smile. He makes other people feel amazing. He laughed at a couple of my jokes. I actually like this guy because of that. Like that was the number one reason. Right. But what about that unconventional side? As far as, a relationship that, say, for instance, you met one of my friends, Patrick Umel, right? And so you remember him at the Hideout. And do you remember Patrick? So Patrick was Patrick was the
was he the Lederhosen guy?
No, he's the president of the Michael Mina Group. He cooked breakfast for us.
Okay, that's right.
Morning.
Yes.
And it was the most expensive bacon that any of us had ever had because they have restaurants all over the world. And Michael Mina is one of the top celebrity chefs in the world. And that's his partner. And they've built all these amazing places. And now he has Table One Hospitality, which takes chefs and connects them to the network of what they have. And as opposed to a chef, kind of almost like with yourself, if a chef is just good, he exposes that chef to the world and puts the systems and processes at the highest levels. So he cooked our bacon that morning at the Hideout. The reason why I'm
Michelin
saying that is
those were great.
It was
Michelin starred eggs, man. Those were great.
Well, this is the thing is like it was an unconventional meeting because I met him in 1999. And I believe at the time he was a manager. Maybe he was a manager. I don't think he had made manager at the time. But it was right after he was a busboy at Spago. And we met and we connected. He was just Patrick to me. And now when I say the name Patrick Umel in the restaurateur arena, people are like, oh, Patrick. I'm like, I know. He's my buddy, right? Have there been times like that for you where you've met somebody and then, you connected with them and then years later you started to see like, oh, wow, I can't, it have an impact on you?
Regularly, because that's part of what I do is to help, entrepreneurs. So part of what I'm doing is the marketing side. I also do help people with talks. And I can remember, there was one person I met, and I met her randomly. We were at an event, and a friend of ours needed a hand, and so we were both there. Or she was brought in as kind of the MC on this, and I ended up just kind of helping out because I was there. He's a friend. I'm going to go help him out, and ended up not knowing who this person was, getting along really well, and then later on finding out, wow, really connected. You know what you're doing. You're at the top of your game. She's in the business finance world. And becoming really good friends with her and creating this amazing kind of relationship around it. We're actually working on a couple of really cool, really cool companies right now with some marketing stuff and helping to build them out. But it's just one of those things where it was this random thing that happened. But, had another person come along who is a client of mine who ended up winning a Guinness World Record. I get to meet these really cool people that are doing really cool things all the time. So I guess for me, it happens regularly. Currently working with somebody who is the first blind contestant on Dancing with the Stars, so helping her to do some work as well. So it's just one of those things where it's like, I get to do that all the time, get to meet these unique people. So it's just part of my job.
Now,
I get to meet these awesome people doing awesome things.
I heard this one thing too, Andrew, that when I said I heard it, I used to always hear membership has its privileges, right? And I heard that all the time, and you connect it with American Express. And I remember as a kid growing up, I was like, man, I need to be a member. Like, because we didn't have much growing up, and they would show like a lifestyle and it'd be like membership has its privileges. Well, what God revealed to me was membership has its privileges, but relationships grant you access.
Mm-hmm.
What does that make you think about?
It sounds really trite to say, but your network is your net worth. But there's another caveat to that. And I think this is something you're really good at. And this is what I love it with the Vibram and everything that you're doing right now is you've hit this right on the head. Like you have exactly the right way to do this. It's not just about going out and having a whole bunch of people that you kind of see every now and then when you need something, right? It's about building this tribe of people around you that are your friends, and we're going to go do really cool stuff together, and we're going to build each other up. And I think that's one thing that you're incredibly good at is building people up. And I want to just kind of bring that out, that that's a strength that you have. And I think it is an extraordinary strength. But let's go out and do cool stuff. I'm going to just collect a whole bunch of people that are really interesting, that, that each one has their own special little thing. Like, let's go back to the band analogy and say, okay, the drummer's really good at this, and the bassist is really good at this, and I've got these people that are good at things. Now put them all together, they can create something cool. That's, I think, how networking should be done. Let's go find a whole bunch of people that are doing maybe not the same thing that I do, maybe very different industries, but we all have these cool things that we're going to create. Something we're good at as entrepreneurs is creating and building. We love doing it. I had a good friend of mine, he just turned 50, and he tried to retire. And because he is at the point now where he's exited a bunch of companies, he doesn't really need to work anymore. He tried to retire for a year, and it did not go well at all. He needed to build. And I think same thing. I'm never going to retire. I need to build something. And I think doing that with friends and doing that with the people around me and my network is a huge deal. So again, your network is your net worth, but I think it's a little bit different than people think it is. It's not always a transactional thing. It's often, who are the cool people I'm going to go build this next thing with? Yeah.
What's the cool stuff that you want to do that has nothing to do with your business?
Oh, I love it. The cool stuff that I want to build in the future, because I have a few other goals I have to do before that. I want to start men's groups. I think guys need to have some sort of I know I needed this a lot. We need to have this tribe of guys around us who push us to be better and who are able to reflect a standard back to us that we need to achieve. Again, it's not about like who's better than whom. It's not about, hey, who's, it's not competition just for competition. It's sort of, iron sharpens iron is the best way I've heard it put, where, you have these people around you who will push you, who will say, well, you didn't show up there. Let me check you on this one. Or, hey, let me help you through this specific problem that you're running into. And I think that was the first thing that when we had to hide out in Utah, that was, I think, the first time I actually was able to see that. And it started to form this thought in my head about this is part of the ministry I need to be able to give, was to show guys who showed up who started off in a situation similar to mine where you didn't have that standard. You didn't have a strong man in your life being able to say, look, go do this. My dad was a good man. He was not good at being a man. It was, here, let me go do this. Let me give the standard for you and show you how to maneuver these things. We need that. And I think that's something that I want to do in the future. So outside of my business, that's kind of the main ministry I want to be able to build. So watch in a couple more years, we'll get that. You'll see it come up.
The men's group part of it has been a game changer. I actually, it's funny because one of the guys from my men's group. His name is Craig. He's the history hunter. I don't know if you saw the last episode of the podcast, but you need to check it out. It's crazy. He's from Pawn Stars, and he's the World War II expert on Pawn Stars, but he's the #1 in the world as far as the World War II artifacts, things like that. And what we do is he comes into the studio and he just brings random artifacts. And I don't know what they are. And then we sit down and he straight schools us on them. And they're not like, oh, I got a piece of, I got a pebble from Gettysburg or, that's not World War II. But I mean, it's not little things like that. I mean, it's substantial. Like this last one, he brought in 3 things. One of them, literally, like when I say literally, like literally changed the world. Number 2, ended the most tyrannical regime in the history of man. And number 3, he had I can't even tell you, you got to watch it. It's crazy. He had a book that is almost almost 500 years old.
Wow.
In the studio that proved that there's nothing new under the sun. The same things that we're worrying about and arguing about right now is the same things that they were dealing with at that time.
Yeah.
And so the reason why I'm saying it is because he's in my men's group and we do it Tuesday from 8:30 to 9:30. And what I would say with your, I want to speak some life to you with your men's group. Don't wait for the 2 years. I tell you, as sloppy as it could be, but this is the cool thing. I don't know if you know, I actually created this is not a commercial for it, but I created a workbook for men's groups. So it just takes you through. So we do Proverbs, right? So, corresponding proverb, corresponding day. So they have and it's just 3 little questions in it. What hit your heart? What did it make you think about? What action can you add to it today? And you go through that with the guys. But I tell you, when you do the men's group, what we had to do, I learned this in my company when we had our company and we had multiple locations, is we put time frames. Like we started off as far as everyone talking and we put a time frame on it, which seemed very insensitive at first. But as we grew, if the time frames weren't there, we would have spent the whole time just on that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And you're one of the best at this. Like I loved watching you there at the hideout because you actually structured some things when we were working through as a group, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, I think that's one of the things. The structure of something, and one of our mentors, Greg, has this kind of, as a mastermind association, he's got this format that they use where you're allowed 3 minutes, 3 minutes to give your ask. And that time frame makes us compress all of these kind of random thoughts into something coherent and going in something actionable. And I think that's really necessary for men's groups as well, as we need to be able to make it clear. When I say I go from point A to F, I don't want to go from point A to Y to X to B to G to L, it needs to go in a straight line. And I think by compressing that time frame, it makes our brains think about what we're saying first and then move forward and be able to kind of make it coherent. And I think that's something that's really needed too. So yeah, I love that, man.
Where are you going to move to in Utah?
Draper.
You are?
Yeah.
You already have it set? Is it? Do you know exactly where you want to be? Everything like that? Do we have a time frame? Because my family's in Draper too, right?
Oh, no, I didn't know that, man.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome, man. Cool. Yeah. So one of the things that I have is the picture from the hideout. The second thing I have is the picture of the apartment complex that I want to move into, looking right at, I think it's Mount Millicent. So in Draper. So yeah. So it's going to be probably August, September at this point, kind of looking at how things are going. So later this year, about a fall. It's one of those I have to have a whole bunch of other stuff fall into place before that happens. But,
yeah. Are you in touch with James too? Would you stay connected with him?
No, I haven't in a while. I think the last time that I talked to James was we were speaking at an event in New York City. It would have been 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually we were just talking about you because I just got off the phone with him before we got on. And so he prayed over our episode today, which I think was awesome. Um,
Awesome.
but dude, he loves you, man. And you know, he's there now in Utah,
Mhm.
and he's moved out that way. It's been
Everyone's moving to
how
Utah.
was
I
that?
know it's like everyone's moving to Utah, and I want to be one
Yeah.
of the cool kids.
Yeah, it's a great place, man. Now, what would you say to as far as like, um, you know, celebrating people? You're such a great example of this. Like you celebrate people, you're excited for them. You know, I don't ever feel a sense of competition with you. You're just like you do what you do it at the best level, the highest level, and then you celebrate everybody else. Why is that, and how'd you learn it?
Because I think we all have the path that we're running, and we're all on different parts of that path. So some people have just started off, and some people are, already more advanced along that path, and they've learned what they need to learn. And I think we need to, if somebody is moving forward and trying to better themselves, no matter what part of that path that they're on, I think we need to cheer them on, because it's difficult. It's incredibly difficult to go this path. I mean, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I have a friend of mine who says maybe 4% of people can actually do this because of what needs to happen in order to make it work. And so I think that any person who has chosen that path deserves to be kind of cheered on and sometimes held accountable, but most of the time, kind of, you're going to be able to do this and done from a place of constructive, or from a constructive place. Like, hey, oh, we all have that moment when we need somebody to tell us something difficult. But I think that's what we need. We just really need people to be able to not just try to compete with us, but to be able to say, how are we going to work together? Like, how can we buid cool things, even if we're doing something similar? So, yeah, yeah. It's
This
just
is a
tearing people down is not. What do you call it? Bad karma or whatever you want to call it. It toxifies you. It creates something inside of you that says, that puts you into a mindset that doesn't allow you to be the best version of yourself. And so, yeah, there's going to be people you're not going to want to work with. Yes, there's going to be negative situations that come up, but looking at it more from a how can I work with others versus a how am I going to get you? Yeah, it leaves that toxicity out, and does nothing but fester, honestly. Yeah.
this one's going to be unpopular, because I think that we're under the impression always that you could do anything that you put your mind to, and this is what my parents would say to me all the time. You do anything that you put your mind to, and but my mom added the caveat, although just because you could do it doesn't make it right for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
What are some signs that a person, and again, this would be unpopular, what are some signs that a person shouldn't be an entrepreneur?
I think the biggest sign is you aren't willing to look at yourself and all of your demons honestly. I think that is the number one thing that will exclude you from being an entrepreneur, because that's one of the biggest parts of this. If you come in with a fear of money, you're going to have to face that fear of money. If you come in with this transactional mindset, not wanting to kind of do cool things with your friends, you're very much going to fail, and you're going to fail hard. And you're either going to have to learn that. But if you come in with any sort of egos going, I can do this, I don't need to learn all of this, you're going to be humbled very quickly. And if you can't do that, you're not going to do well. If you want stability, you are not going to be a good entrepreneur. It's just, if but there's a lot. I like to help people out of 9 to 5s, but I also understand some people are better in 9 to 5s. That's how they operate. Cool. Hey, if it
Yeah.
works for you, that's what matters. If you've ever had that question going, and not from an ego standpoint, but going, I have this really cool thing I want to build, other than, go blank my boss. My boss could go to hell. If you're going from that first part, I have this cool thing I want to build, you're an entrepreneur. If it's more about, hey, I want to go do these things, I want to build a whole bunch of money, and you don't have a purpose behind it, yeah, those are the folks that will not do well in entrepreneurship. But yeah, if you're willing to, again, the bullet point part of it, if you're willing to take a look at yourself and look at all your demons in the face and handle them, if you're willing to deal with constant uncertainty, and you do this from a purpose, like some other deeply held purpose in your body that's going to keep you going through all of the hard times, that means you're an entrepreneur. If you don't have all three of those, it's not going to work well for you.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, I think there's a lot of times where people toss the word around too because
Yeah.
it became shiny and it became exciting, and um, I've I've had the tendency to say somebody will be like, I'm an entrepreneur, and then I just ask, is there any other source of income that is stable, that is supporting you be an entrepreneur? And they're like, oh yeah, I got this and I'm an entrepreneur, on the side. I'm like, then you're not an entrepreneur. You're not an entrepreneur until that, if you don't kill, you don't eat. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And
It absolutely
I know
does.
that I know that sounds so bad, but that was just my TED talk, and I'm sticking to it.
Oh, good man. Well,
What are
I have
the
this joke that I tell to a select group of people, so
Yeah.
you don't hear this side very often. I have this sort of, I call them my quote unquote entrepreneurs. It's like I sell soap at my farmer's market and I'm an entrepreneur. And I'm like, no, you aren't. I'm sorry, but no, you aren't. Unless you've been sitting on your bed at 2 o'clock in the morning going, what the hell have I done? It's those dark moments that create entrepreneurs. And it's a really, like you said, if you have a 9 to 5 job and you've got this small thing over here, first of all, I'm going to celebrate somebody trying to do a side hustle, but you haven't earned that yet. You need to earn into this club, because what's going to happen is if you don't earn into it, you're trying to take credibility for something that you haven't done. If you earn into the club, you are now the strong person, and you've now become the person you need to be a successful entrepreneur. It's part of the process. And if you don't go through that process, it's not going to work for you. Yeah. Like trying to get to those points where it's like you said, it's having a steady income coming in. Well, if you haven't said at the end of the month going, I have no idea how I'm paying my bills next month. I'm going to make it work, but I have absolutely no idea how to do that or what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Well, and I
Yeah.
think growing that into a system, growing that into which you help people to do into a systematic way where they can have predictable income. And that's the
Yeah.
part that, most people don't realize and understand is, if you do what Andrew's talking about, you go
Mhm.
through those dark points, you go through those things, you can create SOPs, you can have KPIs, you can have systems as an entrepreneur that then will have stability in it. But as an entrepreneurial spirit, you most likely, once you get to that point, you're probably going to build something else that's going to push you into a place where you're going to have to, take another bit of risk, which I think is great. Um,
Yeah. We're very
Andrew,
risk tolerant. Like entrepreneurs, we're super risk tolerant, and that's what makes us really good at what we do. Is
yeah,
that we can go and make those calculators. I had a conversation with my mom about this the other day, and we were talking about things, and she's trying to talk to me from this. I have, the 9 to 5 thing. Now, she was a psychologist in private practice, so she always owned her own business, but it was more of a own a job. So like she had regular flow of clients coming in. It was never an issue. She was really well known in the area. And so she's trying to talk to me from this, yeah, but what if something goes wrong? And I'm trying to talk from this entrepreneur world of, but I'm going to make it go right. And look, I have the evidence behind me, and I have. And it was like we were talking Japanese to each other. And
mm,
so I think a lot of times we don't think about it. It's hard for people to understand what that world looks like. She likes things very stable. Things have been very stable for her. She's always had a constant, stream of clients coming in. It's always been very secure. This is it. I'm that kid over there that pushes the button and then figures out what the consequences will be. And very different worlds.
yeah,
I used to do that when I was a baby. I had this fascination with lights. It was actually my first word. It was just lights for some reason. And anytime my parents would take me out, I had like they carry me on their arm and the thing. There were stories of me just trying to flick every switch I could find, just because let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. And I think for me, it kind of shows. I think even at 4 months old, people started to see the entrepreneurial streak of let's go see what happens. And
Andrew, what's God working with you on right now that you're wrestling against him?
up until last week, it was trust yourself. You got this. Stop the noise. And that was a big one. Also, getting a little bit of don't run yourself so hard, step back and listen. That was something that was really hard because for me, it was that anxiety loop over and over and over and over again. So that is, I had this major revelation last week about, oh, that's what this is, and it really cleared out a bunch of stuff that I had been struggling with for a long time. But it was more now it's just integrating that and going, okay, what does this actually look like from a practical standpoint? Because when you learn something new, there's a learning curve on it. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I do push back a little bit on it. I'm going to be honest, because it's the old programming, but identifying it, saying this is old programming, no judgment, just this is old programming. I don't need this anymore. And identifying it and moving on has been incredibly helpful. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with that. Yeah.
How do you identify it and then reprogram? Because the tough thing is, I remember Art Barter, who's, do you know, have you heard the name Art Barter before?
I think a long time ago. Yeah.
He started the Servant Leadership Institute, and he used to, well, a lot of what he talks about is that the mind is like a computer. Basically, it just has files in it. And, sometimes you have this old file from 1985 that doesn't really serve you anymore, but you still have it inside, in the computer. And so when you go to run a program, it runs through that programming. And so it was, the illustration for me was great. So I understood it. I was like, oh wow, yeah, I still got some old software, or at the time it was a floppy disk. You know what I'm saying? I had the floppy disk still inserted, which, and
My emotional support software.
yeah, he was talking about that, and I was like, man, that makes a lot of, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
How long does the reprogramming take?
All depends on what it is. I think it is. With something that deeply rooted, it's going to take probably weeks to have it. Even though there was this revelation and I saw what it was, I think that's the first part you need, is to see what that new version is, to have that new standard. And that's, once you get to that point, and it's a matter of weeks of just integrating and kind of iterating over and over again. Okay, well, old programming done, old programming done. The process before that is usually a lot harder because you don't have a standard. I want to go back to something I said earlier, where you have this liminal space when you first become an entrepreneur. Something's different, you think differently, and you have some bigger purpose in this world, but you have a family around you that could be actively working against you, not because they're trying to cut you down, but because you're triggering a lot of things, and you're speaking Japanese and they have no idea what you're doing. Like, it's so far outside their experience, but you don't have that entrepreneur tribe yet. And I think that what happens is you don't have this standard. Like, something's wrong. It's like the orchestra around you is playing out of key. The audience is like, this is the greatest thing I've heard. And you're looking at them going, the hell it is. This is wrong. Something's wrong here. But you don't have the correct music to play, to look at and go, oh, this is where the things went wrong. And I think that's the harder part, and that can take years. I know some of the deeper stuff that I've done, it's taken 5 years to undo it because I didn't have that standard. And once that standard was put, now it's a little bit easier. Some people call it a breakthrough. There's a bunch of words for it, but I think that's that point that people have to get to. Yeah.
Andrew, you know that I started the podcast because of my two kids, so Maddox and McKenna, right? And now what's wild is the first time that you were on, was it 4 years ago or is it 5?
I think it was almost 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to look back at the, you know what? I can do it right now. Let's look at this. Let's go to the all-knowing, Google.
I used to say Google, but now it's ChatGPT.
I guess so. Yeah. Are you using it a lot? Are you using AI a ton in your business?
A lot. Yep. AI helps a lot with like the basic trying to get everything together. We still have a human involved with webinars because I don't think the tools aren't good enough to completely spit out a webinar at the end. But if I can get me 70% of the way there, that's different. But when you're saying consult Google, it reminds me of a joke. Because I was a caregiver for my grandfather for the last 6 years of his life. He was 97 when he passed away. Yeah. And he was a retired industrial engineer. His specialty was in time motion studies. So how can I make this process more efficient? And so I can remember we'd sit in the morning and have coffee and we'd kind of chat back and forth. And then there would come a point when we'd ask a question. And I finally got to the point one morning, I'm like, okay, let's consult the Oracle Google. And we'd Google whatever it was, and we'd ask her the question and go from there. And from that point, it turned into a running joke that, whenever there was a question, let's consult the Oracle Google and go figure it out.
My wife gets mad at me because I'll ask her questions knowing that she has the answer no matter what it is because she has her phone with her. But she's like, are you joking me? I don't have the answer. I'm like, yes, you do. In your pocket, you have the answer. So just help a brother out and do it. So it was January 10th, 2023. So it's, we're talking 3 years, 3 years ago.
Oh, wow. I thought it was longer than that.
Which is wild. You know what was amazing about it? It was episode 242. Today is episode 767.
Wow, congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. But what's wild about it, you know what the title of it was? Do you know how consistent
Leading with
you are,
love?
Andrew? Do you know
Wasn't it
how
leading with
consistent
love?
you are?
I love to hear that.
It was lead with your heart.
Lead with your heart. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was
Lead
something
with
like
your
that.
heart. And I mean, it's exactly what you've been talking about today. So, you know, my two kids, right? And so
Mhm.
um, now McKenna's 17 years old.
Wow.
Maddox is 14 years old. Maddox, sports guy, into gaming, you know, telling me not that I'm unk and you know, and tells me, but he fishes a ton now and stuff like that. And then my
Like
daughter's
no
into
cap.
performing arts, having a lot of fun with that. What advice do you have for them from if you could use both their names and call yourself Uncle Andrew, it'd be awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So Maddox McKenna, from your Uncle Andrew, the biggest thing that I can say, if I were to go back in my life, back to when I was your age, I tried to start my first business at 16 and didn't because I allowed fear to get into it, and I allowed the fear of failure to bypass that, and it would have been a really big part of my life. Do not allow that fear to get into your mind. Go do the thing. You're going to make mistakes. It's not going to go right. There's times when you're going to be embarrassed. That's cool. That's part of this process. You have the you have a father that has been through the entrepreneurial journey before, and I think that is the biggest gift that he can give to you. Understanding that you have the tools in front of you to make this go right. It's going to be a bit of a difficult road. The other end of that road is a whole lot better than kind of your typical 9 to 5 job. So go out, fail fast, fail often, do it now while you still can, while you're young. You will be absolute rock stars when you're in your 20s if you can do that now. So I guess that's the biggest piece of advice I would give to people, or give to specifically the two of you.
Andrew, you're incredible, man. It's
Thank you.
it's always a pleasure. We can't go as far in between time. Um,
Yeah.
you know, we don't get it. We're actually working through. We're doing a little bit longer term rental on our place there in Park City, um,
Yeah.
but you know we've got family there. My family's there. We'll make sure that you know the James connection is there too. James has been that dude. We've when I talk about unconventional friendships, we actually were connected. Um, he was going to be a secret knock, and he was just supposed to have like a quick, you know, spotlight. And you know how Greg does it for like 11 seconds, you know?
Yep.
But I got him on the podcast. We became fast friends. We had an interview there. It was off to the races, and it's just been amazing to see what James is doing and the lives that that dude is impacting. It's unreal. That's how I was just telling him this morning. He got me I did an event with him, and he's actually co-hosting the Vibe Room too, March 11th. Um,
Awesome.
so, but make sure that you guys get connected. But it's just, I mean, it's a pleasure, man. It is an absolute pleasure to spend time with you and just to be your friend, man.
Same here, man. Thank you. I appreciate you so much, brother, more than you think I do. And you are an awesome human being. You're one of my favorite humans. And thank you for having me on the show, man. I really appreciate you.
You're awesome, man. So, hey, stick around. We're gonna run a commercial real quick, but stick around
Sure.
and we'll chat afterwards. Sound good?
Sounds good, man.
You're the man. You're officially off the hot seat.
Yeah, yeah, and this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights. Yeah, this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights. We begun surfing waves too low, made our own rules everywhere we go. Held tight to the truth that our parents declared. Anything is possible, the love stayed there. Now Rob's daughter ballin' on the end scene, Olay scene. Will's kids live dreams we never could have seen. This the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights.